Breaking news. The United Kingdom has officially rolled out new restrictions on dependent visas in 2025, a move that could reshape the lives of thousands of international students, skilled workers, and their families. For many, the UK has long been seen as one of the most attractive destinations to study, work, and build a future. But for just as many, the decision wasn't only about education or career opportunities. It was about whether their loved ones could join them on the journey. Families often made sacrifices together, spouses relocating, children adapting to new schools, households starting fresh in foreign cities. That equation has now changed. The UK government, facing mounting political pressure to reduce immigration, has chosen dependent visas as a primary target. Officials argue the move is necessary to protect the integrity of the immigration system, to manage numbers, and to respond to public concerns. Critics, however, warn that the new rules risk damaging Britain's reputation as a welcoming, world-class destination for international talent. In today's video, we will unpack this story in detail. We will begin with the historical background of dependent visa policies in the UK. We'll examine the political and economic debates that led to these 2025 restrictions. We'll analyze exactly what the changes are, who is affected, and what they mean in real life for students, skilled workers, and families. Along the way, we will explore the economic consequences, the political motivations, and the international comparisons that show how the UK now stacks up against its global competitors. By the end of this video, you will have a clear, fact-based understanding of the 2025 dependent visa restrictions. More importantly, you will see why this seemingly technical policy change is actually part of a much larger story, a story about migration, politics, and the future of Britain's place in the world. The concept of dependent visas is not new. For decades, the idea that families should be able to live together has been a guiding principle of migration policy worldwide. Family reunification in post-war Britain after the Second World War, the UK saw significant immigration from Commonwealth nations such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the Caribbean. Many came to work in factories, public transport, and healthcare. Over time, these workers applied to bring their spouses and children, setting the stage for family-based migration policies. By the 1960s and 1970s, family reunification had become embedded in immigration law. This wasn't seen as an act of generosity, but as recognition of basic human rights. If the UK wanted long-term workers, it had to allow their families too. Rise of international education in the 1990s and 2000s, Britain developed into a global hub for international students. Universities relied heavily on fees from overseas students. To attract them, the government allowed spouses and children to accompany students. This made the UK more competitive against rivals like the US, Canada, and Australia. Dependent visas thus became a key factor in the UK's global education strategy. A student who knew their spouse could join them was far more likely to choose Britain over a country where they'd have to live apart. Shifts in the 2010s, but the 2010s brought political change. Conservative governments emphasized reducing net migration as a headline policy. Ministers repeatedly promised to bring immigration down to tens of thousands per year. Student visas, and their dependent routes, came under scrutiny. Critics argued that some applicants were misusing the student visa system, enrolling in low-quality courses just to gain work rights or to bring in family members. In response, the government introduced tighter rules. For example, only postgraduate students on longer courses could bring dependents. Undergraduates were excluded. Brexit and the immigration reset. The 2016 Brexit referendum added fuel to the fire. Take back control of our borders became a defining slogan. Ending EU free movement forced the UK to design a new immigration system. The points-based system introduced in 2020 aimed to prioritize skills and talent, regardless of nationality. But at the same time, the political pressure to cut numbers never disappeared. By 2022, immigration had again surged, partly due to humanitarian arrivals, partly due to international students. Dependent visa numbers skyrocketed, increasing nearly eightfold in just a few years. This surge set the stage for the 2025 crackdown. Public concern and media pressure. By 2023, UK net migration exceeded 600,000 in a single year. While large numbers came from Ukrainians and Hong Kong residents, political attention turned toward international students. Newspapers carried alarmist headlines: student route or family route. Talk shows debated whether dependence was straining public services. Public opinion polls showed mixed attitudes. Many Britons valued the contributions of international students. But when asked about net migration numbers, majorities consistently favoured cuts. Politicians saw dependent visas as a politically safe target. Tightening rules here would reduce numbers without directly harming domestic voters, the Conservative government pledged to act. The Home Secretary described dependent visas as open to abuse. The Prime Minister emphasised that while genuine students were welcome, the system could not become a backdoor for family migration. Universities, however, pushed back. They warned that restrictions would make the UK less attractive and harm the economy. Businesses echoed those concerns, noting that the UK needed talent to remain competitive. But in the battle between economic logic and political pressure, politics won. By late 2024, the government formally announced sweeping new rules to take effect in January 2025. The 2025 restrictions explained: so, what exactly has changed? For students only, research-based postgraduate students, PhDs, doctorates, can now bring dependents. Taught master's students and undergraduates are no longer eligible. Short courses are excluded entirely. For skilled workers can still bring dependents, but financial requirements are stricter. Applicants must meet higher salary thresholds to qualify. Maintenance funds for dependents have increased, up to £1,200 per month per person in London. Application changes: applicants must provide stronger documentation, certified marriage certificates, official birth records for children. Fraud prevention measures are stricter. False information can result in multi-year bans. Official justifications reducing net migration numbers. Protecting the integrity of the student visa route. Restoring public confidence in the immigration system. Criticism: Universities UK warned of a major economic hit. International students contribute more than £40 billion a year to the economy. If students choose Canada or Australia instead, the UK stands to lose revenue, jobs, and cultural capital. Human rights groups criticised the family separation impact. For many students, leaving a spouse or child behind is not a real option. Instead, they may abandon the UK altogether. Impacts and analysis. On international students, the restrictions disproportionately affect students from countries where family accompaniment is expected. For example, many students from Nigeria, India, and Pakistan enroll in the UK for postgraduate degrees while supporting spouses and children. Without dependent rights, their numbers may decline sharply. On skilled workers, higher financial requirements create a two-tier system. High-paid professionals can still bring families, but those earning closer to the minimum threshold will struggle. This risks discouraging mid-level professionals in healthcare, IT, and engineering, sectors already facing shortages. Economic consequences: short-term, the government may see a dip in migration numbers, pleasing some voters. Long-term, the UK risks losing billions in tuition fees, rent, and local spending. Competitors like Canada, which openly advertise their family-friendly policies, may gain. Political motives: the restrictions are less about economic rationality and more about politics. Immigration remains one of the most powerful electoral issues in Britain. By targeting dependent visas, the government demonstrates action while avoiding confrontation with powerful domestic lobbies. International comparisons: Canada, dependents allowed for most students. Spouses can even work. Australia, dependents permitted, but financial proof required. US, dependents allowed but restricted from working. In this landscape, the UK stands out as more restrictive, potentially undermining its competitiveness. Consider the case of Aisha, a postgraduate student from Nigeria. She planned to enroll in a one-year taught master's program in London. Under the old rules, her husband could accompany her. Now, in 2025, she must choose: study in the UK alone, or switch to Canada, where her family is welcome. Or take Rajesh, an IT professional recruited to work in Manchester. He earns just above the minimum threshold for a skilled worker visa. But with higher maintenance requirements, he cannot afford to bring his wife and 2 children. The job suddenly seems less attractive. These stories are not isolated. They represent thousands of families caught in the crossfire of political calculations. Future scenarios: the policy temporarily reduces numbers, satisfying political pressure, but universities and businesses adapt. The UK remains competitive by offering other incentives. Student applications plummet. Skilled workers choose Canada, Australia, or Germany instead. The UK loses billions in economic contributions, and its reputation suffers lasting damage. There will be an initial decline in dependence, especially from postgraduate students. Universities will lobby for reform. Within a few years, the government may soften the policy, but only after political goals are met. The 2025 dependent visa restrictions mark a turning point in UK immigration policy. On the surface, they are technical changes aimed at cutting numbers. But beneath the surface, they reflect deeper tensions: the struggle between politics and economics, between openness and control, between welcoming global talent and responding to domestic fears. For families, the impact is deeply personal. For the UK, the impact will play out in classrooms, workplaces, and international rankings. The story is far from over. Policies change, governments change, and migration continues to reshape societies. The question is whether Britain's decision in 2025 will be remembered as a necessary adjustment, or as a mistake that pushed global talent elsewhere. And so we ask you, the viewer, do you think the UK made the right decision in restricting dependent visas, or will this policy backfire in the long run? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.